Hi crochet cousins, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, Dee is my name, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this little pineapple skirt. It's super short, but you can make it longer in your size. Let me show you here shortly. So from the waist to where the pineapples start, it's about 10 inches long. So you can decide to make the shells longer before starting to make the pineapples, okay? So you can make it longer, maybe up to 13 inches, and then start to work on the pineapples as I'll be showing you in the tutorial. For the materials, you're going to need a tape measure. You're going to need some yarn of your choice. I used 2 balls of yarn, and this is what I have left from the second ball. And the yarn is called Big Twist, and it's 100% acrylic. As you can see, it's 380 yards and 347 meters, 170 grams. Okay, that's what I used. It's a size 4. It recommends an H8 hook, which is a 5mm hook, but I'm going to be using a 5.50mm hook. Okay, so get your materials ready. You're going to need a tape measure as well. Then you're going to need a darning needle, because you're going to have a whole lot of strands to weave in after making the pineapples, because each pineapple is made separately. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. We do make crochet tutorials on this channel. With all that being said, let's dive into the tutorial. So I'm going to start with a slip knot, and then I'm going to make a chain of 128, and that is for a size large to extra large. Okay, for other sizes, I'll put the number of chains you need to make on the screen. I'm done with making my chain of 128, and here I'm trying to make sure that my chain is not twisted, and then I'm going to join it in the very first chain that I made, and there we have joined it. So next we're going to work around this circle that we have. Chain 3, yarn over and make a double crochet into the next stitch, the next chain right here. So insert your hook and make a double crochet, make a double crochet into the next chain, make a double crochet into the next chain, and you're going to repeat that, making 1 double crochet in every chain until you get to the end of the row. I'm at the end of my first row. Once you get to the end, all you're going to do is slip stitch on top of the very first chain 3 that you made, and at the end of this row you should have a total of 128 double crochets. That is if you chained 128. For our second row, you're going to insert your hook under this chain 3 that you made from the previous row, pull up a loop, and you should have 2 loops on your hook, 1, 2. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through, then chain 2. Okay, that is going to count as our first front double crochet. Then yarn over, and into the next double crochet you're going to make a back post double crochet. like that. Then you're going to yarn over and make a front post double crochet, insert your hook under the post, pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, pull through 2 and pull through the last 2. Then the next is going to be a back post. And this is how our second row is going to look. So keep making 1 front and 1 back post double crochets all the way until you get to the end. At the end of your second row, you're going to insert your hook on top of the 3rd chain, pull up a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook and pull through all. Then chain 2. That chain is going to count as our first double crochet. So into that same space where the chain is coming out of, you're going to make a double crochet, chain 2, 2 more double crochets all in that same space. Then you're going to chain 3 and you're going to skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and into the 4th you're going to make your second shell. So skip 3 and into the 4th make a shell. Insert your hook, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop and make a double crochet. Chain 2, 2 more double crochets all in the same space. Chain 3, yarn over, skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and into the 4th you're going to make a shell. A shell is 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 more double crochets into the same space. This is what you should have. Chain 3, skip 3, and make a shell into the 4th stitch. And that's what you're going to repeat all the way around for this row. Okay, you're going to keep repeating that. Now you're going to chain 3, skip 3, and into the 4th make a shell. You're going to do that until you get back to the end where we started from. So I'll go ahead and work this round and then I'll be back. I'm at the end of my row, and guys, I forgot to chain 3 here, so don't make the same mistake. So you're going to chain 3 and then join it. Okay, so you're going to insert your hook after chaining 3, pull through. You have 2 loops on your hook, and then you're going to pull through all, then chain 2. That is going to count as your first double crochet. Insert your hook in the chain 2 space and make a double crochet. That's going to count as your second double crochet. Chain 2, into that same space make a double crochet, and your last double crochet is going to be a front post. So you're going to go under this next double crochet and make a front post double crochet, just like that. You should have something like this. Chain 3, then you're going to yarn over and you're going to make a front post double crochet into this second stitch. Insert your hook under the stitch and make a front post. then yarn over into that chain 2 space, make a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet into that same chain 2 space. Then you're going to make your last stitch for this shell as a front post double crochet into this next stitch like this. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to make your first front post double crochet on top of this second stitch of this shell. Make a front post double crochet, then make a double crochet into the chain 2 space, chain 2, make your second double crochet into that same space, and then you're going to make your last double crochet as a front post double crochet. Insert your hook behind the stitch and make a double crochet, a front post double crochet, sorry. Then chain 3 and you're going to repeat that same pattern. Insert your hook behind that stitch and make a front post double crochet, then make a double crochet into the chain 2 space, chain 2, make a double crochet into that same space, and make your last double crochet as a front post double crochet. So every shell is getting 2 front posts double crochets, and then in the chain 2 spaces you're placing there 1 double crochet, chain 2, 1 double crochet, all in the chain 2 spaces. So I hope that is clear. Feel free to slow down the video so you can understand this part very well. When you get to the end of the row, you're going to slip stitch on top of the 3 chains of the 3rd chain. Then you're going to insert your hook under the next stitch or behind that next stitch. Pull up a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. Pull through 2. Then chain 2. That is going to count as your first front post double crochet. Yarn over in the chain 2 space, make a double crochet, chain 2, make 1 double crochet into that same space, then make your front post double crochet on the next stitch like that. Chain 3, yarn over and make your first front double crochet into the next into the second stitch of the shell, then make 1 double crochet in the chain 2 space, chain 2, double crochet into that same chain 2 space, and then make your last front post double crochet. Chain 3, make your first front post double crochet. So leave the first stitch, but the second one, that is where you're making your first front post double crochet like that. In the chain 2 space, you're going to make a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet into that same space, then make a front post double crochet. And that's what you're going to repeat for this pattern, and you're going to repeat that over and over until you have enough rows that you need. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and repeat this same pattern as well. Then I'll be back to show you guys how many rows I made, and then we'll continue from there. Guys, I'm back, and this is what I have. I have a total of 18 rows. This is enough for me, but you can make it longer if you want to do that. I just made this short, like it's a short skirt, but you don't have to make it this short, so you can decide to make more rows. Okay, so we're now going to be making the pineapple design at the bottom. As you can see, I added some white color to this. It's just some piece of yarn that was lying around. I decided to add it, and it actually looked great on it. So you can also decide to change colors if you want to. Make a slip knot with your main color. This is blue for me. Then I'm going to attach this yarn into the chain 2 space. You can attach it anywhere. This is the back for me, the back of the skirt. Then you're going to chain 3. It's going to count as a double crochet, yarn over, and into that same space you're going to make 9 double crochet. So you'll have 10 double crochets in total. Alright, this is it. Next, you're going to chain 3, yarn over, and then you're going to make a front post double crochet. So you're going to skip this first double crochet into the next. That is where you're going to make your front post double crochet. Then make a double crochet in the chain 2 space, chain 2, back in that chain 2 space make a double crochet, and then you're going to make a front post double crochet like that. Chain 3, into the next chain 2 space you're going to make 10 double crochets like we did here. So insert your hook and make 10 double crochets. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One more. That is it. That is 10 now. Then chain 3, and into the next chain, into the next stitch you're going to make a front post double crochet. Then make a double crochet into the chain 2 space, chain 2, into that same space make a double crochet, then make a front post double crochet to complete the shell. And you're going to keep alternating between the 10 double crochets and the shell, and that's all you're going to repeat for this row. So chain 3 and make 10 double crochets into this next space, So you're going to keep repeating that. I'll meet you at the end of the row, guys. Okay, I'm at the end of this row. I already chained 3 here, so I'm going to yarn over and make my last shell. Chain 3, and then I'm going to slip stitch on top of this double crochet. There you go. So for our next row, you're going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4. The chain 3 is going to count as our first double crochet and a chain 1 in between. So next you're going to yarn over and you're going to make a double crochet on top of the next double crochet. So I'm going to yarn over and insert my hook on top of the next double crochet and make a double crochet. Chain 1, make a double crochet on top of the next double crochet, chain 1, double crochet on top of the next double crochet, chain 1, double crochet on top of the next double crochet, and you're going to do that until you have worked in all the 10 double crochets that you have from the previous row. And remember to chain 1 after every double crochet. Okay, you can double check to make sure that you did the right thing, that you have 10 double crochets here as well. So this is my first double crochet, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I have 10 double crochets just like what I have here at the beginning. Okay, so make sure you have 10 double crochets here as well. So what you're going to do here, previously we would chain 3, but this time we're not going to chain. So you're going to yarn over and insert your hook direct in the chain 2 space, okay, and make 2 double crochets, chain 2, back into that same space, make 2 double crochets, chain 2, and again in that same space make 2 double crochets. Okay, so this time we have 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, all in the same space. Next you're going to yarn over and you're going to make a double crochet on top of this first double crochet that you have. Okay, so we're repeating what we did here. So yarn over, insert your hook on top of this first double crochet and make a double crochet like that, chain 1, insert your hook on top of the next double crochet, make a double crochet, chain 1, and repeat that pattern until you have a total of 10 double crochets here as well. Okay, so here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 double crochet as well, just like we did here. So I'm going to repeat this all the way around. So next we're going to yarn over and insert a hook directly in the next chain 2 space and make 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, chain two more double crochets all in the same space. Okay, like that. Then we're going to make this. Sorry, we're not supposed to chain here. So yarn over, insert your hook on top of the very first double crochet, make a double crochet, chain one, double crochet on top of the next, chain one, double crochet on top of the next, chain one, and repeat. So what we're doing here is creating the pineapples, okay? This is the foundation. This is where the pineapples start from, as you will be seeing as we go, okay? But so far it looks good. All right, I'm going to repeat this until I get back to where we started right here. Then I'll show you what to do next. So I'm at the end of my row here, and I'm going to slip stitch on top of this first chain that I have. So slip stitch. So after slip stitching on top of the first double crochet, you are going to turn your work, okay, turn your work, and you're going to slip stitch until you get to this chain two space. Slip stitch, slip stitch, and slip stitch in the chain two space. Okay, then chain one, two, and three. Turn your work again. So we have one chain here in the, oh, excuse that. We have one chain here in the chain one space, so you're going to yarn over and make a second double crochet, chain two, in that same space make two more double crochets. Okay, so you have your first shell here. Then what you're going to do next is you're going to chain three, 1, 2, 3, and this is the first double crochet that we have, so you're going to make a slip stitch in this first chain one space. So directly insert your hook and make a slip stitch like that, and then chain three, 1, 2, 3, into this next space, make a slip stitch, chain three again, into this next chain one space, make a slip stitch, chain three, and you're going to repeat that until you get to right here where the double crochet is for this pineapple ends. Chain three, slip stitch in the next chain one space, chain three, slip stitch in the next chain one space, chain three, slip stitch, chain three, slip stitch, chain three, and slip stitch. Okay, so you should have something like this. So the chains I have made here, I have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8. I have 8 of these chains. So once you make your last slip stitch here, you're going to chain 3, then yarn over, and you're going to make a shell in the chain 2 space. So insert your hook, make 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets in the same space. So I need you to pay more attention on this part because we are going to work on each pineapple separately. So this is our first pineapple, and we're going to keep going until we are done with it, and then we're going to start the next one, and we keep doing that until we work on all the pineapples that we have. Okay, so I hope that is clear. So as you can see, here we are working on our first pineapple. So after making this shell, you are going to, you can chain 1 and turn your work. So chain 1 and turn, and then you're going to make a slip stitch on top of this next double crochet like that, then slip stitch in the chain 2 space there, then chain 3, make 1 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochets all in the same space. Okay, that's all you need in that space. So next you're going to chain up 3, and here we have our first chain from the pineapple. So you're going to insert your hook and make a slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch into the next chain 3 space, chain 3, slip stitch in the next chain 3 space, chain 3. So basically that's what we're repeating. Chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, make a slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch. And at the end of this row here we have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So as you can see, as we go, we are reducing by 1 stitch. Okay, we started with 10. Yeah, we started with 10, and at the end of this row 3 we had 8. Okay, and now we have 7. So after that you're going to chain 3 and then make a shell here. Chain 1 and turn your work. Slip stitch on top of the next double crochet, slip stitch in the chain 2 space, chain 3. Okay, chain 3, make a shell right there, chain 3, 1 2 3, and you're going to slip stitch on top of this first chain 3 that we have here. So leave this alone, but this chain 3 that we have on top of this double crochet is from the previous row. Okay, so ignore this chain 3 and insert your hook in this first one. So you're going to slip stitch into that, chain 3, slip stitch into the next chain 3 space, chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch, and you're going to repeat that until you work in all these chain 3 spaces that we have. Okay, like that. And now we have 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. They're going to keep reducing like that until we have only one left. So that's what you're going to keep repeating. After that, you chain 3 and then make your last shell. Okay, your work will look like this. Chain 1 and 10. Slip stitch on top of this next double crochet. Slip stitch in the chain 2 space and make a shell. Chain 3, and you're going to slip stitch on top of this chain 3 we have. So it's the same thing that you are repeating from the previous row until you have no more chains to work into. Okay, and as you can see, this time we have 1 2 3 4 5 spaces that we need to work into. So the next row they're going to be 4, and then the next one there'll be 3, then 2, then 1. So I'm going to continue from here off camera and then I'll be back, or maybe we should just finish this all at once. So let's see, 1 2 3, make a shell, chain 1 and 10, slip stitch on top of the first of that next double crochet, slip stitch in the chain 2 space and chain 3 to start your next shell. Chain 3, then slip stitch into this first chain space, chain 1 2 3, slip stitch, 1 2 3, slip stitch, 1 2 and 3, slip stitch, 1 2 3, slip stitch, 1 2 3, and you're going to make the shell to complete the row. Alright, next chain 1 and turn your work, then slip stitch on top of this next double crochet, slip stitch in the chain 2 space, and start your next shell. Chain 3, and then you're going to slip stitch on top of this next chain 3 space, chain 1 2 3, and slip stitch, chain 1 2 3, slip stitch, chain 1 2 3, slip stitch, 1 2 3, make a shell to complete the row. And that's what you should have. And our pineapple is coming along really nicely, so we'll keep going. We have 3 chains here now, so next row they're going to be 2, chain 1 and turn, slip stitch on top of the next double crochet, slip stitch in the chain 2 space and chain 3 to start the next row. Chain 3, slip stitch into the next chain 3 space, chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, yarn over and make your last shell. The last shell for this row. Alright, next chain 1 and turn, slip stitch on top of the next double crochet, slip stitch in the chain 2 space, chain up 3, make a double crochet in the same space, chain 2, double crochet into that same space, chain 3, and slip stitch into this next chain 3 space, like that, chain 3, and slip stitch into this next space, chain 1 2 3, and then you're going to make your last shell here. So now you should have something like this. Chain 1 and turn, slip stitch on top of the next double crochet, and in the chain 2 space make your shell. 1 2 3, So we have one chain here, so I'm going to chain up 3 and slip stitch like that. Chain 3 and make a shell right here to complete the row. And you should have something like this, and as you can see, now we no longer have chains to work into. So that means our next row is going to be our last row for this part. So to complete the pineapple, going to chain 1 here, slip stitch on top of the next double crochet. To complete the pineapple, now we're going to, this is the next chain 2 space, and this is the chain 2 space for this other side. So we want to put them together like so that we can go through both. Okay, I hope that is clear. Then chain 1, get your scissors and cut off the yarn. Pull that tight and you will weave that in later. So here we have our first pineapple. Okay, so next we're going to work on our next one, and we're going to repeat this same process. So I'm going to show you how to start our next pineapple, and then that's the same process we're going to use for the rest of the pineapples around the skirt. Okay, so to start our next pineapple, remember here where we would chain, we'll make 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. So this pineapple has taken this one space here. Okay, so this chain 2 space is going to go to this next pineapple, plus this one on this other side. So now we're looking at this. This is what we're going to work with and create our next pineapple. So I hope that is clear. So that means the next pineapple is gonna take this space and this first space on this next shell. So now we're going to insert our hook right here in the chain 2 space. Okay, get your yarn and make a slip knot. Going to chain up 3 and make a shell here, chain 2, 2 more double crochets in that same space. Okay, so we have our first shell here, and the next we're going to start working on the pineapple, just like what we got here. So you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to slip stitch into the first chain 1 space. Okay, this is my first chain 1 space, so I'm going to make a slip stitch right there. Then I'm going to chain 3 and slip stitch into the next chain 1 space, chain 3 again, slip stitch into the next chain 1 space, and I'm going to do that until I get to the end of this pineapple. Then once you get to this end, you're going to chain 3, and you're going to make a shell right here in the chain 2 space, in this first chain 2 space. So make your shell right there. Okay, you should have something like this. Chain 1 and turn your work, and then you're going to slip stitch on top of the next double crochet and slip stitch in the chain 2 space, chain 3, and make your first shell for this row. Chain 3. Then here we have the chain 3 space, so we're going to slip stitch into that. So ignore this chain 3 from previous row that's attached to the shell and make a slip stitch into the chain 3 on the pineapple. Chain 3, then slip stitch, chain up 3, slip stitch in the next chain 3 space, chain 3, and you're going to repeat that until you work around the pineapple. Okay, once you get to the end of the pineapple here, you're going to chain 3 and make a shell in the next chain 2 space. Chain 1 and turn your work. Slip stitch on top of the next double crochet, slip stitch in the chain 2 space and chain 3. To start the next row, make your first shell, chain 3, and then you're going to slip stitch in the chain 3 space right here. This is the first one. Chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, and repeat. Okay, once you get to the end, chain 3 and make your last shell. And you will have this. Okay, I'll go ahead and repeat that process, and then I'll show you one more time how to complete the pineapple here at the end. Okay, so I'll go ahead and repeat the same pattern like I've been showing you guys, then I'll be back. All right, to complete our pineapple, to close this off, once you have slip stitched on top of this next double crochet, we're going to slip stitch in the chain 2 space. So you're going to insert your hook in both chain 2 spaces of both shells, and then slip stitch, chain 1, get your scissors and cut off the yarn, pull that tight so it doesn't come out. So now I have my 2 pineapples completed. I'm going to work on the rest of camera, and I'll be back once I'm done making all of them. Then I weave in my ends so that we don't have any distraction. I'm back, and this is how my work looks so far, and I have made a total of, here I have 16 pineapples. It's 16 pineapples all together, and this is how your work should be looking as well. So next we're just going to make a drawstring that we can tie around our waist for the skirt to fit better. Okay, so you're going to make a chain. I doubled my yarn and made the chain, and I'm now going to pull it through the first row that we made. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in my next one. Bye bye.